Recent polling has some stunning insights into Republican voters and their thoughts on Donald Trump since the riots on the Capitol. So the first set of polls here is from Pew Research. Let me start with this one. Most Americans say Trump bears at least some responsibility for violence at the U.S. Capitol. So this is a percentage who say Trump bears blank responsibility for the violence and destruction by some of his supporters at the U.S. Capitol. So total voters here, 52% think Trump bears a lot of responsibility. 23% say some. So a large majority here of Americans believe that Trump bears at least some or a lot of responsibility for what happened at the Capitol. Now, when we get down to how these votes split out, Republicans or lean Republican, only 18% think that Trump bears a lot of responsibility. 34% say some, and 46% say not at all. Still, a majority of Republican or Republican-leaning voters believe that Trump bears at least some responsibility for the violence at the Capitol. Democratic response obviously is a lot different here. 81% say Trump bears a lot of responsibility. 14% say some. Now, going down here, this one is a percentage to say it would be better if for the country for Trump to be removed with Pence finishing out the last few days of his term, or remain in office until his term is completed. So the majority of people want to see Trump leave office or be kicked out, impeached, and convicted, with Pence finishing the last days of his term, with 54% saying that and 45% saying that he should remain in office. And of course, the couldn't be more stark here, the difference between Republicans and Democrats. 20% say he should leave, 79% say he should stay, and of course, the complete opposite for Democrats here. Now, let's get to what I begin to see as the most interesting results here. Trump's job approval drops sharply, almost entirely among Republicans. So take a look at this. It's been going along pretty steady since 2017. Disapprove, approve. But since those riots, sharp increase in disapprove, now at 68%, 29% approve. And you break it down, you see where that is coming from. Republicans now are largely no longer in support of Trump, at least not in the numbers that they used to be. Still, it's much too high at 60%, but that is where the drop's coming from. Democrats, of course, never had much respect for Donald Trump and only went down from 5 to 4 here. Now, this one is maybe the weirdest out of all the results here. So after Capitol riot, Republicans have reservations about Trump, but most say incorrectly that he won the election. So even though Republicans believe that Trump bears responsibility for the riots, even though his approval rating has dropped considerably, there is still 64% saying that Trump definitely or probably won the 2020 election. 64% of them, even though he bears responsibility, at least some responsibility for the violence. Again, a majority. 52% think he bears responsibility. 46% say he bears no responsibility. But even still, 64% of them think he won the election. This is why, even with these lower ratings for Donald Trump, you're not out of the woods. As I've said before, when Trump is gone, these voters aren't just suddenly going to become informed citizens. They are down this hole. Whether they need a new figurehead to latch onto, like a Josh Hawley or a Ted Cruz, or whether they just go full-on conspiracy and become largely apolitical, remains to be seen. But these people, a large contingent of them, still exist. And the GOP as a whole, their voter base, largely believe all of this insanity. Now, a little more here. This is from the Washington Post, ABC News poll. So this is among Republicans. 51% say GOP leaders didn't go far enough in nullifying the election. Again, showing you that this base cannot be saved. 56% say Trump bears zero blame for the insurrection. 66% say he acted responsibly. Again, these are people that are going to continue existing in the country with or without Donald Trump. Last piece here. This one I like the most. 54% of Americans want Trump to face criminal charges for inciting deadly mob attack on the U.S. Capitol. So, obviously here, even though Republican voters largely are too far gone, Americans in general do want to see Trump criminally charged. They want to see some justice here. And as I've said in the past, I think it's unlikely we're going to see that from Joe Biden. Potentially, some states are going to go after him. Trump clearly committed tax fraud, as was discussed during the first impeachment trial, with Michael Cohen coming out and discussing how Trump would inflate his assets when it suited him and then deflate his assets when it came to taxes. That's committing tax fraud. So he'll have that to deal with. He'll have other potential charges to deal with. But I think it's very unlikely that Trump's DOJ will go after Trump, that Biden's DOJ will go after Trump. But obviously that remains to be seen. If they actually listen to the people largely agree. And I would think you would see even more support for Democrats, even more support for Joe Biden if he actually put his foot down and went after Donald Trump.